Okay, everybody, we are live. Can everybody see me and hear me? Looking good over here. What's going on, people? So, this is going to probably be a pretty slow stream. I'm not expecting a lot of people to come out right now. I know the Hawks Nest just started like 45 minutes ago, and I know a couple other Seahawks people are streaming too, so it's the day after Christmas. It's late. I'm not going to go terribly long here, but I do want to get something. It's a tradition. So, yeah, I'm going to give people some time to gather before I start answering questions. But thank you to anybody who comes by tonight and spends time with me. Well, I mean, it was an interesting game, Guy, right? It's an interesting game. And there was some good stuff out there. It just, I mean, it was a classic Thursday night football game, and maybe that's the game you deserve on the day after Christmas. Who's your favorite candidates for the OC for next year? I mean, if you're gonna dream big, probably Stefanski, but that's not realistic. So I like. Hmm, I'm a fan of maybe getting like a Zach Taylor or something like that if he gets fired from the Bengals, which he probably should be. Do you want the Hawks Rams game to be on Saturday? If the SOV scenario is in play, they know they're not eliminated yet. Well, what does it matter? Either we're going to be eliminated or we're not. Whether or not we know, not really going to matter that much. So I don't think it makes a difference. All I know is that this team needs to do everything they can to try to win that game, no matter what. It's the last game of the year. If you don't make it, and it is the game that you need to win to make the playoffs. If it's not, at the end of the day, 10-7 is a successful season for a first-year head coach. Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm totally down with looking at things like that. Brian Daboll would be good. The only concern with him would be he might have anger issues, but that's subjective. I would definitely like Daboll. Hey, Bryson. McDaniel would be great. He doesn't really run an offense the way that we do, though. He's more of a two receiver guy, it seems like. I don't know if he'd have a great grasp of how to utilize JSN. You got to find somebody who knows how to utilize JSN because that's the one guy on this offense that could be utilized improperly that is definitely going to need to be part of the plan going forward. You know what I'm a fan of? A sleeper one, the OC of Tampa. I think his name is Liam Bryan. That would actually be good. I don't know if you could get him, but I like him. Thoughts on DK penalty? I mean, he's he's kept a lid on that all year, and this is not the time for that garbage to be coming out. I I don't know what else to say. This is really not the time for him acting like an idiot. I think McDonald's done with Grub, but we only get to see a tiny sliver of the information to really make that call. Mayfield has done pretty well in Tampa. Yeah. And Tampa Bay uses formations in almost the exact same way we do. Well, I don't care if they're baiting him or not. They try to bait DK all the time. And he's been keeping a lid on it for the whole season. And now in week 17, in a game where you're already not doing anything, you're going to do that? Not okay. Seven carries for 46 yards for Kenny. You think he has a promising future? I like him. He definitely belongs in the NFL. I don't know if he's ever going to be anything more than a spellback, but there's some fun stuff you can do with him for sure. What about Tanner Engstrand from the Lions? I think everybody just kind of assumes that the Lions are going to give him the OC job when Ben Johnson gets a head coaching job. So you would need Ben Johnson to stay in Detroit for one more year, and I think that's unlikely. Last time a team had more sacks than points while winning. That is interesting. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, Benjamin. Charbonnet is a good player. Charbonnet is a good player. It's just he can only thrive in certain circumstances. That's the thing, though. 1,000 yards isn't really impressive anymore, Daisy, and there are going to be a couple dozen receivers that have 1,000. That's, doesn't really mean much. JSN didn't break the catch record. JSN needs to do some work next week to get the catch record. Mike Kafka, that would be good. Kafka would work. I would love Kafka. Andy Reid guy. Do you think Travis Hunter is better at receiver or cornerback? I think he's going to be a cornerback, but I could go either way on it. I don't have a strong take there. What are the odds of Grubb being terminated? I'd say over 50% at this point. Matt Nagy? I could do Matt Nagy. The problem with Matt Nagy is I think he's a good play designer, but he's not a good play caller. We didn't sign Leonard Williams, we traded it for him. Well, the Giants are probably going to blow it up this offseason, Calderon, right? The Giants are probably blowing it up. So I imagine Kafka's going to get set free. Who's your favorite player on the Seahawks this year? Probably Big Cat. Probably Big Cat. All right, guys, we got about 80 people in here. I'm not expecting to get that many more this tonight because it's late and that game was so uninspiring. But thank you everybody for coming here. Please like the stream if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We were trying to get to 20,000 by the end of the month. That's obviously not going to happen, but definitely trying to get that sub count up as high as possible. Would you rather have Kafka or Daboll? That's tough, man. Wow, that's tough. That's really tough, man. I'll go Daboll. I'll go Daboll. The thing is, Dable might have anger issues and he might have personality issues. Some people have pointed out that he is, look what happened between him and Wink Martindale, right? That was an interesting blowout, an interesting blow up. And it might say something not so positive about Dable's personality. Who do you like so far at receiver? Yeah, Jalen Royals is fun. Ayor Monor is fun. Shoot. Hold on. I gotta look at my list here real quick. I wonder if Tez Johnson can play outside. I like him a lot, but he's tiny. Kyron Lacey on LSU. Torrey Holton on Colorado State. Torrey Horton. Or however you say it. I like Tez. He might be too small to play outside in the NFL, though. Yeah, Lockett should be retired. Well, Lockett's definitely Ring of Honor. Number retired, actually. Number retired, I'm not sure about that. I don't even know if we're going to retire Russell Wilson's number. And if we're not going to retire Russell Wilson's number, we definitely shouldn't retire Lockett's number. Yeah, I like Jalen Royals too. I'm familiar. Vaguely. I don't have time to deep study everybody yet. You think Bobby Wagner will get his jersey retired? I could see that. He's like one of the 10 best off-ball linebackers in NFL history. I could see that. Should we trade up in the first? We're not going to trade up in the first round, I don't think. That's not how John Schneider does business. There's a chance that the tiebreaker between Rams and Seahawks comes down to a scoring tiebreaker. That'd be fun. I could mess with that. Do you think the Raiders would accept Metcalf and Mafe straight up for Crosby? I wouldn't think so. I think you got to put picks in there because that's what they would want, right? They want picks. And remember, Metcalf and Mafe might both request an immediate extension. Should we trade DK? I mean, I'm not going to say we should necessarily, but I'm pretty open to it at this point. I'm starting to get a little annoyed, and I'm starting to be more open to it. What's up with so many delayed hands-offs? I mean, I don't feel like it was bad tonight. I felt like that worked okay, so I'm not going to complain about it. We need to find a way to run the ball out of shotgun. That's our main problem right now. We never run out of shotgun. If we trade DK, who should we replace him with? Well, a few different ideas on that one. I'm it's a pretty decent receiver draft. I'm gonna definitely have some guys there. Maybe you could even package all the picks to get McMillan if you really wanted to. It depends on if they feel like this team is ready to compete next year. And I'm open to that, them thinking that, but it's not a given. Yeah, we should have beaten the Rams, guys. Like, don't forget the stuff that happened in that game for us to barely lose in overtime. There was some very fluky crap in that game, some very fluky garbage in that game that cost us that win. I do think that Grubb is not doing DK favors. I could definitely blame DK's lack of production on Grubb. I could definitely see doing that, but at the same time, that doesn't change the fact that he's about to ask for a lot of money without having monster production. Yeah, that's not exciting either, having to play a game in Los Angeles for the division potentially. That's not exciting, but it is what it is. Should have beaten them the first time. Referees didn't make that game any easier, by the way. As is. Kind of feels like the Seahawks are in NFL purgatory. Yeah, I gotta be honest. I don't see it that way. We just got a new coach. All right, if we were Steelers fans, I would understand that talk more. If we were Steelers fans, then I would get it because that's a team that just wins 10 games every year, gets blown out in the first round, and that's it. They never really change much of anything. They change marginally, right? Like if we were Steelers fans, I would understand that. But we just changed coaches. So we are trying to turn this around. I mean, we got rid of our quarterback a couple years ago. Nick, I'm not going to do that until after the games this week are done because I already made the tiebreaker video for this week. I'm not going to do it again after 3 games. I mean, Brendan, even with a new coach, we likely will finish 9-8 for the third straight season. So what? Not all 9-8s are created equal, people. Not all 9-8s are the same. I know the meme is funny, but there is a big difference between the team going 9-8 last year and 9-8 this year. Jiggy, I don't have the Steelers fired their GM in the last several years. I didn't think so. I thought the Steelers have had the same GM for a while. Do you think Jody Allen will still sell the team? He has to, right? She literally has to. Now she could kind of sort of sell it to herself, but she has to. Well, yeah, mofo, but context matters, right? By your logic, then a new coach means we were trying something new, yet the same outcome is likely to occur in the win-loss column. Well, yeah, he just got here. This is his first year. But think about it like this. In Sean McVay's first year, he won 11 games. The Seahawks this year, if they win next week, have won 10 games. So there's a 1 game difference between what McVay did in his first season and what McDonald did in his. So to act like that's nothing, I think, is the wrong way to come at this. I mean, we weren't going to be able to fix all the problems in one offseason. I think we all knew that. Yeah, Paul Allen, I think, would have the Seahawks a little bit better. Paul Allen was a better owner, but I think Jody's doing fine right now. Does this game change your attitude towards Woolen at all? No. I mean, I think he played pretty well, but I think it's very clear that he doesn't really like football that much. And I get the sense that he doesn't give a crap about getting better. So that's going to override everything else. I mean, at the end of the day, the Bears do not have a very good offense, and they did not do a lot to make him work hard. And the teams that make him work hard end up making him suffer. I'm off the Woolen thing, and I don't see myself getting back on. Okay, but Seahawks fans also feel this way because of the QB situation, O-line situation. If you consistently pick between 14, 20 in the first round, you're not going to get blue chip prospects. Yeah, but you can still hit, right? Like, even getting a top pick is only going to get you one player, and then you still have to hit on your picks down the line. It doesn't really change anything that much. I mean, he played the worst game of his career. He played the worst game of his career against the Packers. And then he breaks a team rule that week. That how does that not how is that okay? He's not a rookie. This is his third year. I mean, I there's another way to look at it, right? This team has been average to above average consistently for the last 3 years. Maybe that means they're really close. Maybe that means they just need one more little push to break through. I don't necessarily think it means you have to take a big step back in order to take more steps forward next year or the following year. And taking that step back is probably not something that this team will be willing to do anyway. John Schneider might be thinking, my job is on the line here. In the past 10 years, how many first-round picks have we hit on? Spoon and maybe JSN. You can't say Cross because you have to think about it. I don't think you have to think about it with Cross at all. Would you make a big-time trade for a quarterback if possible, like a Joe Burrow? I mean, I can't imagine that being a possibility, but I guess. Although you're talking about putting Joe Burrow behind a really bad offensive line, and you're not going to have very good receivers anymore, and you can't run the ball, and you have a bad OC, and you just gave up a bunch of resources that you were going to use to fix those problems to get Burrow. So at the same time, I wonder if that would even make things good. But the Bengals are not going to trade Joe Burrow. So, I mean, he's too good. He would have to he would have to pull a Carson Palmer, and I don't think that's going to happen. And yeah, obviously the Seahawks didn't draft very well for an extended period of time from like 2013 to 2021. I think everybody knows that, right? Like I think we all understand that was a disastrous era, but That doesn't change the fact that you can break through. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. Who have they like gotten a super high pick to get? Like who have the Chiefs ridden these last few years that they got with some super high pick? Right? I mean, who's the foundation for the Chiefs run over the last 6 years? It's Mahomes, who they got with the who they got with the number 10 overall pick, right? They traded up for that pick, by the way. They didn't even have to lose to get it. They just saw a guy they liked and they went for it. But you've got Tyreek Hill, they got day 3. Travis Kelce is a second round pick. Chris Jones, I can't remember how high he went, but he wasn't like a top 5 pick or anything like that. Are there any viable QB prospects to replace Howell as the backup? I like Riley Leonard and Cade Klubnik, but it doesn't matter. Those guys aren't going to be better than Sam Howell as rookies. Growth. If we were to trade DK, what interior offensive line help is even available for us to target? Well, what does trading DK have to do with targeting interior offensive line help? Seemed Nwosu played his best game. Has he reclaimed his role as the best edge on the team? Maybe. Maybe. I like what I saw from him. I feel a little bit better now. What's up with Mafe? He might have been playing hurt all year. A lot of people think he got hurt against New England and just never made it all the way back. Who of the edge rushers are you most willing to package in trade for a game wrecker? Probably Derek Hall because he's a disaster against the run. Probably Derek Hall. But I could be talked into partying with any of them. CJ still comes out with a better season compared to Bryce Young. Oh, see, Stroud's better than Bryce Young still. Like, Bryce Young's playing better, but I still think there's a little bit of a low ceiling there because he's small. And he doesn't have some cannon arm or anything like that. He's mobile. He's creative. But I'm not that high on him. I think that there's a low ceiling there. I think that he might be able to be Baker Mayfield. That's about it. Would you want to trade for Crosby if he wants out? That would be an interesting one. I like that. I do. I'm assuming addressing IOL via a trade or free agency. Oh, okay. There are guys out there, Drew Dahlman, Trey Smith. Those would be 2 guys near the top of the list. I really don't want to give big money to a right guard though. I want to give big money to a left guard like Tevin Jenkins. That one might be pretty good. I like the idea of Tevin Jenkins a lot. And then You move Christian Haynes to center, and then right guard, you can probably just kind of get by with a lesser player because if he has better stuff around him, easier for him to do well. Crosby just trying to get more money from the Raiders? I mean, maybe. That's a pretty bad team. Wish I was kidding, but a few sports talking heads actually mentioned Russell Wilson coming back and finishing his career back in Seattle. Russ should retire this offseason. He's terrible now. Like, I was watching that Chiefs Steelers game, and he is the worst version of himself. It is everything bad with very little good parts of the Russell Wilson experience. He is in a situation that's basically perfect for him too, and he's still just barely squeaking by. No. I mean, DK, even if he gets traded this offseason, he did have a good productive career here. He might be one of the 50 best players in franchise history. He's very close, if not. Like, I really think if we put Russell Wilson in this offense, we'd average like 15 points a game. And he'd get sacked 9 times a game. It would be a terrible fit. JSN would never get the ball. That's a terrible fit. A JSN like receiver with a Russell Wilson like quarterback. That would be the solution I come up with if I'm trying to go 0-17, I guess. Could we trade DK for a second and use it for a receiver? Maybe. Maybe. I wish this draft had more receivers that can play on the outside. Seattle's offense is worse without DK. I know, Glow, but there are other receivers you could get that could replace him. There are other receivers you could get. Like, let's say the Seahawks traded DK Metcalf last offseason, got a first-round pick, and drafted Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. is already a better player than DK Metcalf. Like think about that. And he's basically DK Metcalf, but already better. Thoughts on Trey Harris? I like him. I'm going to have to look at him a little bit more. I'm not sure if he's an outside guy or a slot guy in the NFL. I mean, I think that if you're trading for Trevor Lawrence, you're going to have to give up picks. I don't think they're going to want DK. Maybe they'd want Geno just as a temporary solution at quarterback while they try to figure out everything else, but I don't know why they'd want players. I think they'd want picks. Who is your go-to Seahawks YouTuber that you listen to on your own? I don't really do that. I don't have time for it. I spend so much time doing my own thing. I don't have time to listen to other people. Obviously, the Hawks Nest is great, but I don't get to listen to everything that he does. If we think DK is the problem, then I think we as Seahawks fans don't have our priorities straight. Well, sure, but he's probably about to ask for top 5 money, and he's barely top 20. And if we don't feel like this team is ready to just go, I would understand it. I'm not advocating for it, but I'm more open to it than I was before. If the Seahawks were to get a new QB, who would you want? I mean, what do you mean, Nate Dogg? Do you mean in a vacuum? Do you mean in this exact circumstance of this offseason? And no, I think Malik Neighbors is also better than Brian Thomas Jr. Now, that's a top 5, a top 10 pick. That's a little different, but still. Who would be a QB that we could realistically get that you would want to target? Will Levis is my boy. And maybe Hendon Hooker. That's really all I would do, but I keep saying it. I think this is a very bad environment for a quarterback. So you bring in a young quarterback, it's going to be really ugly. So I'm not even trying to do that, really. Geno Smith has proven that he's good enough to keep the team's head above water when they're a mess like right now, which only a handful of quarterbacks in this league could do. And he's also probably good enough to be elite, and if you build around him correctly. So I'd rather stick with that, because either way, you give yourself a chance. Like anything else you do, I don't like. You could go get Justin Fields if you want to go 0-17, but I'm not throwing. I'm not. I don't believe in tanking, and I don't want to tank. Anyway, you could go get like Teddy Bridgewater like stopgap, but what are you accomplishing with that? And you could get a young quarterback, but it's not going to work on this team. I mean, maybe if you get Andrew Luck, but there ain't no Andrew Luck out there. Yeah, maybe DK's still hurt, but again, what kind of money is he about to ask for? Is he going to ask for 32 million? Is he going to ask for 34? If that happens, then I don't think you can say yes. I just don't. I'm sorry, but he's not better than Amon-Ra. I know they basically play different positions, but he's not better than Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he's going to be making significantly more money because that's how this works. And I don't know if I want to enable that. I don't know. To me, the only way you do it is if you are then going to go balls to the wall this offseason to fix your issues for 2025. You don't slow roll it. You don't keep your powder dry. You just go. I think the receiver draft class is pretty good, John. It's not as good as last year, but that's because last year was historic. Obviously, we're all rooting for this team, but for the sake of avoiding Grubb saving his job, do you think a playoff berth is still in the best interest of the team? I don't think making the playoffs would save Grubb's job. I think he would have to actually show that he's getting better at this. I think he would actually have to show that he's not a dummy. If Darnold stays with the Vikings, what about a JJ McCarthy? I wasn't a big fan of McCarthy in college. Not feeling that. I just don't want to do a thing where we give DK and Geno big extensions and then we decide to just bide our time for 2025. That would frustrate me immensely. Because what's the point then? I don't think the Vikings are bringing back Darnold, by the way. He's going to want stupid money. I'm assuming a playoff berth means the offense is improving at least some. Well, what if we win next week 15-12 against the Rams and we get in? Like, I don't think that making the playoffs is going to save Grubb's job if the offense continues to do what they're doing. What about counterpoint? What about Sam Darnold on the franchise tag when the Vikings tag him? I'm not a Darnold guy. I think Darnold's okay, but I really think that he's benefiting tremendously from Kevin O'Connell. And I don't think he's ever going to be this good again. I mean, he's thrown to Justin Jefferson, FFS. I think Geno Smith is clearly better than Sam Darnold right now. I think if you put Sam Darnold in this situation, it would be a disaster. And if you put Geno on the Vikings, they'd be about as good as they are. Darnold is basically putting up the 2022 Geno numbers. Sure. He's doing it with Justin Jefferson and Kevin O'Connell. And a pretty good offensive line. Oh. John Van Liu, thank you for the sub. Welcome to the channel. Let me get the audio alerts wired up. I just realized they're not. What do you think of Isaiah Bond? He's interesting. I haven't done a lot of research into him yet. Is it worth it to trade DK now or later? Well, you can't trade him now. You trade him in the offseason, or you don't. You can't trade him now. If Penix was on the table, would you trade for him? Dude, Penix would get hurt so quickly behind this offensive line. Penix would... That's the thing that people need to understand about Penix. He thrived in Washington because he basically never got hit, so he never got hurt. You put him on Seattle, he's going to get hit, and he's proven that he's cannot survive getting hit. Yeah, John, I'm hoping that happens as well, but it has to happen. And in order for us to do that, John Schneider might have to abandon the philosophies that he's based his whole career on. Opinions aside, what do you think we will do with DK? I suspect that we're going to keep him, but I'm not convinced. How much do you think Spoon is getting paid next season? Probably like $28 million. Whatever Surtain got plus a little more. I mean, Spoon's probably going to set the market, and I'm fine with it. It's a lot easier now. Questions being taken from X, if I see them, James, which I usually do if I use Restream. I mean, there's something supremely annoying in this game where DK has 42 yards and he gives 15 of them back on that penalty. And by the way, that penalty might have cost us a touchdown because we got a field goal on that drive. Maybe if he doesn't give back 15 yards, we score a touchdown, and that game is a lot less dramatic. How does that not bother you right now? But yeah, James, I should be able to see any questions you send in from X. Spoon almost had a pick six tonight, and the broadcast didn't even acknowledge it. I saw that. I noticed that. He almost jumped it. Do you view Spoon as a true blue chipper elite? I do. I do. I think he's given up 2 touchdowns this year, and a lot of people say it's only 1. What were these passing concepts in this game? I think I saw a play where 2 receivers went to and just sat down in the same spot in zone coverage. That happens a lot. I feel like these passing concepts are garbage. I mean, it's not just with Grubb. It's about more than just the refusal to throw the ball. It's about the refusal to run the ball. It's about the passing concepts. Is Caleb screwed? I don't know. We'll see who they hire in the offseason. Would a second round pick be enough to get Crosby from the Raiders? I don't think so. I don't know, guys. I just think that we need to be a little more open minded about what the team might do this offseason because it is the second year. We didn't have time to do everything we wanted to do last year under the new coaching staff. But we might have to confront the possibility that there are good players on this team that McDonald and new OCX will not want. And they just rode with them for a year. And even though I think that he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, that does include Geno Smith. Maybe they just decide they'd rather step back and experiment with other quarterbacks for a minute until they find the right guy. Like, I don't think it's going to work very well. I'm not optimistic about that, but it could happen, and I'm going to at least be open-minded about it. Well, Jose, we don't have to worry about paying running backs anytime soon. Ken Walker's not getting extended. He's got one more year left on his deal, and he's going to play it. Charbonnet, on the other hand, he can't be extended for at least one more year. We'll figure it out later. We can kick the can down the road on running back easily. Oh, hey, Jessica, how you doing? I think two things can be true at once. Geno has kept us relevant for the last 3 years, but he's clearly not the guy. I don't I don't think I agree with that premise at all, John. I think if somebody is single-handedly keeping you relevant for a 3-year period, then he clearly is the guy. Like I don't think that those two things are compatible. Like if he was just a bus driver, maybe. If he was like Alex Smith, perhaps, but I think he's very clearly not Alex Smith. I thought Murphy flashed tonight. Pretty much everybody on defense was good, Mason. I'm not going to single anything out there. Oh, we can't get. There's no way the Chiefs will ever let Spags leave. Spags ain't going anywhere. But Brendan, would you agree this year is the worst year of his starting tenure in Seattle? No, not at all. I think his worst year was 2022. How about signing Trey Smith in free agency? I don't like giving big money to a right guard. I want a left guard. Left guard's way more important and way more impactful to me. I want a expensive left guard. if we go that way. That's why I want Tevin Jenkins. I really think that even a guy like Anthony Bradford or Lomia will be fine at right guard if you have the other things in place. What about a right tackle? I mean, maybe. So his worst year was his statistically best year? Well, that's actually pretty simple. In 2022, he made a lot of turnover-worthy plays, and he got away with them because opposing teams, dropped a lot of his would-be interceptions. He played like a gunslinger a lot. In the last 2 years, he's reduced his turnover-worthy play percentage significantly, while really not sacrificing all that much in other areas in terms of actual production. Like I think that this year he's actually done his turnover worthy play rate is remarkably low. It's at like 1.2% on unpressured downs and less than 4% on pressured downs, which is well below league average. What is your ceiling type of contract for Geno? I mean, at a certain point, if you're gonna go for it in 2025, I don't mind going up to like 50. I really don't, because at that point, what does it matter? Either you want him or you don't want him. I don't think we're gonna have to go quite that high. I don't, but I'm not gonna be upset if we decide to gun it like that. I just don't really think the price tag matters that much at a certain point. He's not going to see the end of the contract anyway. I do think his red zone decision making is very questionable. I mean, that's something that's kind of new to 2024, though. And it's also a very small sample size. How often does he drop back in the red zone? It happens a handful of times a game. Like, I remember in 2022, CJ Stroud had one of the worst QB ratings when pressured in college football. And everyone was like, oh, this guy can't play under pressure. And no, it was because he barely ever got pressured. He almost never got pressured. So it was a small sample size. Yeah, we'll see what happens with Geno. I'm not going to sweat it too much, but I actually think last year's Geno might have been the best Geno. I think last year's Geno was a little better than this one, but that's an interesting discussion. But 2022 Geno was the worst Geno. His situation has gotten worse, but there has not been a drop off in the actual play, in my estimation. He had to be with the defense. Oh, yeah, I agree. But he still made a lot of turnover worthy plays that he's not doing right now. What is your favorite video series of yours? Probably Snap Count. I think you learned stuff from that you lose track of when you're watching the game because you're so wrapped up in the results of the game that you don't notice, like, hey, that guy's coming in and out of the game a lot. That guy's playing the whole game. In 2022, Geno is the one Geno that actually had a decent offensive line for about 10 games, 10, 11 games. So he actually had a workable situation. Now, he put up better numbers in respect to it, but we are talking about we are talking about a lot of turnover worthy plays. Yeah, Addison, I do. Do you think Maffei's worth top edge money? No. He's good. I think maybe he'll just play out the last year of his deal. Is there any way Lockett stays but renegotiates his contract to get the cap number down? I don't want him to stay. He's not good anymore. We gotta get something else going. I'm sorry. Well, Mason, I still do those videos. They just have slightly different names. I like this edge class a lot. No, K9's not going anywhere. K9 will be here next year. It doesn't make any sense to get rid of him. Why would you do that? Since 1996, Cash Money. Lockett also doesn't feel like a great scheme fit. I mean, really he's not really a he's not really a scheme fit anywhere because he doesn't really do anything all that special anymore except route running, I guess. Geno's TWPs are relatively the same in 2022 and 2023. Are you sure about that? I think he was second in 2022 and like 10th in 2023. I don't think that's right. Yet he's got more turnovers this year. Yeah, that because he's been unlucky, John. That's what I'm saying. Him having 15 interceptions this year is extremely unlucky. I don't think Grubb's coming back, Amazing Mario Bros. I don't think Grubb's coming back. I don't think Lockett's a fit for any offense, though. What does Lockett do well? He's got, I guess he's still got okay hands, although I don't think his catch rate, I don't think his drop rate is that impressive this year. He's not fast. He's not really quick. He's old. He doesn't get any yak. There's really not much to say about him other than that he's out there playing football. I mean, how many dropped interceptions has Mahomes thrown this year, or most other quarterbacks? Most quarterbacks get a lot of dropped interceptions in their favor. And Geno did in 2022. But this year so far, nah. It's gone the other way. Do you think adding another deep threat or possession receiver is more important this offseason? Depends on what you do with Metcalf. Again, two things can be true. He's had fewer TWP, but the ones he does have are backbreaking. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that. He okay, let's just think about this. Two he threw two interceptions against Miami in what was basically garbage time. He threw an interception against Detroit in what was basically garbage time. Like I'm sure I could keep going if I really wanted to. He threw an interception against Buffalo when the game was already over. Right? I don't. There are some interceptions there that are pretty clearly low value, and I'm sure there are some that are high value as well. But I I think the problem here is perspective. Other quarterbacks are doing this too. Most other quarterbacks do this too. In fact, they do it a lot more. Yeah, the second pick against Minnesota was basically garbage time. Like, I think there's some perception bias going on here. Sorry. That's the way I see it. Other than the offensive line, what are the main positions we need new people in next year? I think we need another cornerback. I'm done with Woolen. I don't think the Woolen thing is going to work anymore. Well, the second interception against the Rams was because AJ Barner got molested and the referees decided that was okay. So let's be real about that for a second here. Well, demoting Woolen to CB3 is not going to do anything. He's not a slot guy. He's not a slot guy. So what are you going to do? Put him in the slot? I don't understand. Thoughts on Kevin Winston Jr.? Didn't he not really play this year because he got hurt? Or am I thinking of somebody else? Would a Schottenheimer return appeal to you? That's actually not bad. Schottenheimer did good things here, and then he got fired because Wilson forgot how to play football. And even the pick six against the Rams, he's getting hit as he throws. And I know that if he had held onto the ball and taken the sack, people would have just killed him for taking a sack. And I know that because that's what happened today. Geno took a couple of sacks and everyone threw a fit because, oh, he shouldn't have taken the sack. You think the Cardinals can beat the Rams? Sure, why not? The Rams are not playing good football lately. But all we can do is watch and see what happens. All we can do. Aller is staying back in college football, Baku. No, I don't want Rayshon Jenkins back. He's got no place here. We found somebody better after when Rayshon got hurt. And Jenkins wasn't playing that well. I just don't think it's Geno hate to say he's not a long-term future answer. Well, he's not because he's 34 or whatever. I mean, that's obviously true. That doesn't change the fact that we don't have to worry about that yet. I don't see anything going on with Geno right now that indicates that there's any age-related decline. So I'm not worried about his age. What's your opinion on Derek Hall? I mean, he's a good player, but he's kind of like a happy path version of Darrell Taylor, because Darrell Taylor was kind of the same thing, but he became unplayable. And Derek Hall is still playable, even though he sucks against the run. All right, guys. I think that's really about all we can do right now. I went for about an hour on the stream. I mean, it was an interesting game. It was an interesting game. I don't know what else to say other than that. Thank you to everybody who showed up. We got up to about 150 people on YouTube side by the end. I know it wasn't always fun, but we did get the win, and I got things to do now. Brandon from the Hawks Nest said a Burrow trade would hypothetically be possible. I'm sure it is, and maybe it is. It depends on how the contract is structured, but what's the point? Just seems like while we have Geno, we will never be close to winning a Super Bowl. You're just hope. I mean, I don't think we have nearly enough information to conclude that. I don't think we have nearly enough information to make that inference. I mean, the one time Seattle actually gave him competent offensive line play in 2022, he legitimately was putting up MVP numbers. And he actually got an MVP vote that year. Like, I'm not even like just saying that to say it. He literally got an MVP vote that year because of how good his first 2/3 of the season was. Doug Peter. Yeah, I do Doug Peterson. I like Doug. Doug's got local ties, by the way. I like Doug P. Dougie P. Okay, guys. I am going to bed. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Videos coming out tomorrow.